Okay, hi class, afternoon. Hope you had a good day, Friday. Ugh, I'll tell you what, I need the weekend. I don't know about you. But anyway, here we go. Chapter 5 of The Sheepherg by Dick King Smith. Okay, keep yelling, young'un. Okay, Mrs. Hoggett. Ooh, don't like it. Mrs. Hoggett shook her head at least a dozen times. For the life of me, I can't see why you do let that pig run all over the place like you do. Round and round the yard he do go, chasing my ducks about, shoving his nose into everything. Shouldn't wonder but what he'll be doing with you and Fly moving the sheep about afore long. Why doesn't he shut him up? He's running all his flesh off. He won't never be fit for Easter more like. And what do you call him? Just pig, said Farmer Hoggett. A mouth had gone by silence the village fair. Sorry, mouth. A month had gone by since the village fair, a month in which a lot of interesting things had happened to Babe. The fact that perhaps most concerned his future, though he did not know it, was that Farmer Hoggett had become fond of him. He liked to see the piglet pottering happily about the yard with Fly, keeping out of mischief as far as he could tell. If he didn't count moving the ducks around. He did this now with a good deal of skill. The farmer noticed, even to the extent of being able once to separate the white duck from the brown, though that must just have been fluke. The more he thought of it, the less Farmer Hoggett liked the idea of butchering pig. The other developments were in Babe's education. Despite herself, Fly found that she took pleasure and pride in teaching him the ways of the sheepdog, though she knew that of course he would never be fast enough to work sheep. Anyway, the boss would never let him try. As for Ma, she was back with the flock. Her foot healed, her cough better, but all the time she had been shut in the box, Babe had spent every moment that Fly was out of the stables chatting to the old ewe. Already he understood, in a way that Fly never could, the sheep's point of view. He longed to meet the flock, to be introduced. He thought it would be extremely interesting. Do you think I could, Ma? He said. Could what, young un? Well, come and visit you when you go back to your friends. Oh, you could do easy enough. You only got to go through the bottom gate and up the hill to the big field by the lane. Don't know what the farmer'd say though, or that wolf. Once Fly had slipped quietly in and found him perched. On the straw stack. Babe, she had said sharply, you're not talking to that stupid thing, are you? Well, yes, ma'am, I was. Save your breath, dear. It won't understand a word you're saying. Bear, said Ma. For a moment, Babe was tempted to tell his foster mother what he had in mind, but something told him to keep quiet. Instead, he made a plan. He would wait for two things to happen. First, for Ma to rejoin the flock, and after that, for market day, when both the boss and his mum would be out of the way, he would then go up the hill. Towards the end of the very next week, two things had happened. Ma had been turned out, and a couple of days after that, Babe watched as Fly jumped into the back of a Land Rover, and it drove out of the yard away. Babe's were not the only eyes that watched its departure. At the top of the hill, a cattle lorry stood half hidden under a clump of trees at the side of a lane. As soon as the Land Rover had disappeared from sight along the road to the market town, a man jumped hurriedly out and opened up the gate into the field. Another backed the lorry into the gateway. Babe, meanwhile, was trotting excitedly up the hill to pay his visits to the flock. He came to the gate at the bottom of the field and squeezed under it. The field was steep and curved, and at first he could not see a single sheep. But then he heard a distant drumming of hooves, and suddenly the whole flock came galloping over the brow of the hill and down towards him. Around them ran two strange collies, lean, silent dogs that seemed to flow effortlessly over the grass. From high above came the sound of a thin, and in easy partnership, the dogs swept around the sheep and began to drive them back up the slope. Despite himself, Babe was caught up in the press of the jostling and bleating animals and carried along with them. Around him rose a chorus of panting, protesting voices, some shrill and some hoarse, some deep and gruntle, but all saying the same thing. "Wolf! Wolf!" cried the flock in a daze of confusion. Small by comparison and short in the leg, Babe soon fell behind the main body, and as they reached the top of the hill, he found himself right in at the back, in company with an old sheep, who cried "Wolf!" more loudly than ever. "Ma!" he cried breathlessly, "is that you?" Behind them, one dog lay down at the whistle, at a whistle, and in front the flock checked as the other dogs steadied them. In the corner of the field, the tailboard and wings of the cattle lorry filled the gateway, and the two men waited, sticks and arms outspread. "Oh, hello, young 'un," puffed the old Oh, hello, young 'un," puffed the old sheep. "Fine day you chose to come, I'll say." "What is it? What's happening? Who are these men?" asked Babe. "Rustlers," said Ma. "Them are sheep rustlers." "What do you mean?" "Thieves, young 'un. That's what I mean. Sheep stealers. We'll all be in the thick lorry before you can blink your eye." "What can we do?" "Do? Ain't nothing we can do unless we can slip past these and wolves." She made as if to escape, but the dog behind darted in, and she turned back. Again, one of the men whistled, and the dog pressed, gradually held against the headland of the field by the second dog and the men. The flock began to move forward. Already the leaders were nearing the tailboard of the lorry. We beat," said Ma mournfully. "You run for it, young 'un." You run for it, young 'un." "I will," thought Babe, "but not the way you mean." Little as he was, he felt suddenly no fear but anger, furious anger that the boss's sheep were being stolen. "My mum's not here to protect them, so I must," he said to himself bravely, and he ran quickly round the hedge side of the flock and jumped onto the bottom of the tailboard, turned to face them. "Please," he cried, "I beg you, please don't come any further, if you'd be so kind, dear sensible sheep." His unexpected appearance had a number of immediate effects. The shock of being so politely addressed. Read that again. The shock of being so stopped the flock in its tracks, and the cries of "Wolf!" changed to murmurs of "Oh, isn't he lovely?" and "Proper little gentleman." Ma told them something of her new friend, and now to see him in the flesh and hear his well-chosen words released them from the dominance of the dogs. They began to fidget and look about for an escape route. This was open for them when the men, cursing quietly, for above all things they were anxious to avoid too much noise. Anxious. Huh. You know what that word is today, don't you? You found that word out. Sent the flanking dog to drive the pig away, and some of the sheep began to slip past them. Next moment, all was chaos. Angrily, the dog ran at Babe, who scuttled away, squealing at the top of his voice in a mixture of fright and fury. The men closed on him, sticks raised. Desperately, he shot between the legs of one, who fell with a crash, while the other, striking out madly, hit the rear guard dog as it came to help, and sent it yowling. In half a minute, the carefully planned raid was ruined as the sheep scattered everywhere. "Keep yelling, young 'un," bawled Ma as she ran beside Babe. They won't never stop here with that row going on. And suddenly all sorts of things began to happen as those deafening squills rang out over the quiet countryside. Birds flew startled from the trees. Cows in the nearby fields began to gallop about. Dogs in distant farms to bark. Passing motorists to stop and stare. In the farmhouse below, Mrs. Hoggett heard the noise as she had on the day of the fair, but now it was indefinitely louder. The most piercing, nerve-tingling, ear-shattering burglar alarm. She quickly dialed 999, but then talked for so long that by the time a patrol car drove up the lane, the rustlers had long gone, snarling at each other and at their dogs. They had driven hurriedly away, with not one single sheep to be shown for their pains. "You won't never believe," cried Mrs. Hoggett when her husband returned from the market, "but we've had rustlers just after you'd gone. It were come with a girt cattle lorry, they did. The police said they'd seen the tyre marks in the gateway, and the chap in the car seen the lorry go by in a hurry, and there's been a lot about it. And he gave the alarm, he did. He kept screaming and shrieking enough to burst your eardrums. We should have lost every sheep on the place if it weren't for him. 'Tis him we've got a thanks." "Who?" said Farmer Hoggett. "Him," said his wife, pointing at Babe, who was telling Fly all about it. "Don't ask me how he got there or why he did it. All I knows is he saved our bacon, and now I'm going to save his. He's stopping with us just like another dog. Don't care if he gets so big as a house, because if you think I'm going to stand by and see him butchered after what he's done for us today, you've got another thing coming. What'd you say to that?" A slow smile appeared over Farmer Hoggett's long face. I think he's happy by that, isn't he? What do you think? There we go. Chapter 6, good pick. We'll have that on Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye.